Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Today I'll talk about 4 U.S. presidents: George H.W. Bush, William J. Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. George Herbert Walker Bush was the 41st U.S. president. He served from 1989 to 1993. Coming from a family with a tradition for public service, George Herbert Walker Bush felt the responsibility to make his contribution both in time of war and in peace. Born in Milton, Massachusetts on June 12, 1924, he became a student leader at Phillips Academy in Andover. Bush next turned his energies toward completing his education and raising a family. In January 1945, he married Barbara Pierce. They had 6 children: George, Robin, who died as a child, John, known as Jeb, Neil, Marvin, and Dorothy. In 1980, Bush campaigned for the Republican nomination for president. He lost, but was chosen as a running mate by Ronald Reagan. As vice president, Bush had responsibility in several domestic areas, including federal deregulation and anti-drug programs, and visited scores of foreign countries. Bush faced a dramatically changing world as the Cold War ended after 40 bitter years. The Communist Empire broke up and the Berlin Wall fell. In other areas of foreign policy, President Bush sent American troops into Panama to overthrow the corrupt regime of General Manuel Noriega, who was threatening the security of the canal and the Americans living there. Noriega was brought to the United States for trial as a drug trafficker. Bush's greatest test came when Iraqi President Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, then threatened to move into Saudi Arabia. Vowing to free Kuwait, Bush rallied the United Nations, the U.S. people, and Congress and sent 425,000 American troops. They were joined by 118,000 troops from allied nations. After weeks of air and missile bombardment, the 100-hour land battle, dubbed Desert Storm, routed Iraq's million-man army. Despite unprecedented popularity from this military and diplomatic triumph, Bush was unable to withstand this continent home from a faltering economy, rising violence in inner cities, and continuing high deficit spending. William J. Clinton, better known as Bill Clinton, was the 42nd U.S. president. He served from 1993 to 2001. President Clinton was born William Jefferson Blythe III on August 19, 1946 in Hope, Arkansas, 3 months after his father died in a traffic accident. When he was 4 years old, his mother wed Roger Clinton of Hot Springs, Arkansas. In high school, he took the family name. He excelled as a student and as a saxophone player, and once considered becoming a professional musician. As a delegate to Boys Nation while in high school, he met President John Kennedy in the White House Rose Garden. The encounter led him to enter a life of public service. Clinton was elected Arkansas Attorney General in 1976 and won the governorship in 1978. After losing a bid for a second term, he regained the office 4 years later and served until he defeated incumbent George Bush and third-party candidate Ross Perot in the 1992 presidential race. Clinton and his running mate, Tennessee Senator Albert Gore Jr., then 44, represented a new generation in American political leadership. For the first time in 12 years, both the White House and Congress were held by the same party. But that political edge was brief. The Republicans won both houses of Congress in 1994. In 1998, as a result of issues surrounding personal indiscretions with a young woman White House intern, Clinton was the second U.S. president to be impeached by the House of Representatives. He was tried in the Senate and found not guilty of the charges brought against him. He apologized to the nation for his action and continued to have unprecedented popular approval ratings for his job as president. In the world, he successfully dispatched peacekeeping forces to war-torn Bosnia and bombed Iraq when Saddam Hussein stopped United Nations inspection for evidence of nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. He became a global proponent for an expanded NATO, more open international trade, and a worldwide campaign against drug trafficking. He drew huge crowds when he traveled through South America, Europe, Russia, Africa, and China, advocating U.S.-style freedom. George W. Bush was the 42nd U.S. President. He served from 2001 to 2009. President Bush was born July 6, 1946 in New Haven, Connecticut, to Barbara and George H.W. Bush. Later, the 41st President of the United States. In 1948, the family moved to where President Bush grew up in Midland. He received a bachelor's degree in history from Yale University in 1968 and then served as a pilot in the Texas Air National Guard. President Bush received a Master of Business Administration from Harvard Business School in 1975. Following graduation, he moved back to Midland and began a career in the energy business. After working on his father's successful 1988 presidential campaign, President Bush assembled a group of partners that purchased the Texas Rangers baseball franchise in 1989. Since his election to the presidency in 2000, President Bush has worked to extend freedom, opportunity, and security at home and abroad. His first initiative as president was the No Child Left Behind Act, a bipartisan measure that raised standards in the schools. Insisted on accountability in return for federal dollars, led to measurable gains and achievement, especially among minority students. Faced with a recession when he took office, President Bush cut taxes for every federal income taxpayer, which helped set off an unprecedented 52 straight months of job creation. President Bush modernized Medicare by adding a prescription drug benefit, a reform that provided access to needed medicine for 40 million seniors and other beneficiaries. The most significant event of President Bush's tenure came on September 11, 2001, when terrorists killed nearly 3,000 people on American soil. President Bush responded with a comprehensive strategy to protect the American people. He led the most dramatic reorganization of the federal government since the beginning of the Cold War, reforming the intelligence community and establishing new institutions like the Department of Homeland Security. He built global coalitions to remove violent regimes in Afghanistan and Iraq that threatened America, liberating more than 50 million people from tyranny. He recognized that freedom and hope are the best alternative to the extremist ideology of the terrorists, so he provided unprecedented American support for young democracies and dissidents in the Middle East and beyond. In the more than 7 years after September 11, 2001, the United States was not attacked again. President Bush is married to Laura Welch Bush, a former teacher and librarian who he met at a friend's backyard barbecue. The President and Mrs. Bush have twin daughters, Barbara and Jenna, and a son-in-law, Henry Hager. The Bush family also includes 2 dogs, Barney and Miss Beasley. Barack H. Obama is the 44th U.S. President. His term started in 2009. With a father from Kenya and a mother from Kansas, President Obama was born in Hawaii on August 4, 1961. He was raised with help from his grandfather, who served in Patton's army, and his grandmother, who worked her way up from the secretarial pool to middle management at a bank. After working his way through college with the help of scholarships and student loans, President Obama moved to Chicago, where he worked with a group of churches to help rebuild communities devastated by the closure of local steel plants. He went on to attend law school, where he became the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review. Upon graduation, he returned to Chicago to help lead a voter registration drive, teach constitutional law at the University of Chicago, and remain active in his community. President Obama's years of public service are based around his unwavering belief in the ability to unite people around the politics of purpose. In the Illinois State Senate, he passed the first major ethics reform in 25 years, cut taxes for working families, and expanded health care for children and their parents. As a United States Senator, he reached across the aisle to pass groundbreaking lobbying reform, lock up the world's most dangerous weapons, and bring transparency to government by putting federal spending online. He was elected the 44th President of the United States on November 4, 2008, and sworn in on January 20, 2009. He and his wife Michelle are the proud parents of 2 daughters, Malia 10 and Sasha 7. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode. Prezi signing out. Bye.